Hello, and welcome to another episode of Anxiety Diaries, a weekly podcast about mental health, incredible people, and so much more. I am your host, Scott Newmeyer, and today on the show, I want to provide a trigger warning right here at the beginning. We will be talking about suicide, so I just wanted to give you fair warning. If that's a sensitive subject for you, feel free not to listen, but if it's something that you want to listen to, I do think that we have a great show. We have a really interesting interview and a really great story to share. We're going to talk a little bit about what happens when someone you know commits suicide and what you can do in the aftermath to help yourself and possibly to help others as well. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They are there, available 24 hours every single day at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. Please do not wait until it's too late. Call if you need help. And with that, here's today's show. Today on the show, we have three sisters, Jaclyn, Callie, and Shalyn Kennedy. They founded the nonprofit organization called Life is Worth Living. You can check it out at www.lifeisworthlivingbck.com. I don't really want to tell you too much of their story. I want to let them tell it, but they are incredible women. And for women so young to be doing something so important and making such a difference, it's really incredible. So without further ado, here is Jaclyn, Callie, and Shalyn Kennedy from Life is Worth Living. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Scott.
Your organization is called Life is Worth Living. Can you give us a brief overview, introduce yourselves, and a little bit about Life is Worth Living?
Yeah, you bet. So my name is Callie Kennedy, and I'm here with my younger sister, Shalyn, as well as my twin sister, Jaclyn. Hello. And we are from Saskatchewan. I know a lot of your audience is probably in the United States. So we grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan and now live in Saskatoon, which might be a bit more familiar to people.
Sure.
However, our organization started out, I guess, almost 12 years ago now. Yeah. And it started out more so with Jaclyn and I, just as a school project, speaking to our classroom about a chronic illness, and we chose depression and to share our story. So that's kind of how our organization got started and spread into things like presentations and whatnot. But basically, we're a nonprofit organization located in Saskatchewan, and our goal is to reduce the stigma surrounding mental illness and suicide by sharing our story of losing our older sister, Brianne, to suicide, as well as our own experiences with mental illness. And we also sell an apparel line to raise money for mental health initiatives, as well as to start the conversation and hopefully reduce the stigma that unfortunately exists surrounding these topics.
Yeah, it's something that's really near and dear to my heart. One of the reasons I started this podcast was to try to stop that stigma that, you guys are from Canada, we're here in the United States, but it's everywhere, unfortunately.
It is, yes. And, there's some days where you kind of look around and you're like, hey, people are talking about it. This is great. But we still have had our struggles with running into problems where that stigma does still exist and even just finding speaking opportunities, and people are afraid to have us in because of sometimes the lack of education and awareness that is provided around the topics. They still believe that by talking about it, it's going to result in people taking their lives.
Or giving them the idea, which that is definitely a myth of suicide.
Yeah, so it's just kind of about being able to spread that awareness and share with people what is true and what isn't true, so people do feel okay opening up and talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to hear that. I never really considered before that even finding speaking engagements for you guys would be difficult because of that stigma. it's kind of like a lot of the schools want to teach abstinence, but it doesn't really work, right?
Yes.
It's kind of the same type of thing. It's nice to see celebrities speaking up, especially recently with, The Rock and Mariah Carey and people like that. But to hear that, it's kind of disheartening. I want to go back a little bit to the beginning. You said that this nonprofit organization really came about because of what happened with your sister. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened with your sister?
So we lost Brianne to suicide August 31st, 2004. Brianne was diagnosed with depression at the age of 14, and our family knew that she struggled with depression, and she saw a family physician and sought help for her mental illness, and unfortunately, it did result in her suicide. And so we lost her, like I said, August 31st, 2004.
And she was only 19 years old at the time. So I think especially 13 years ago, the stigma existed even more so, and to be able to navigate how to get youth the proper help, because of course there's antidepressants and stuff, but they are more so developed for adults than they are for children and can have a lot more side effects. So just being able to navigate what sort of resources she needed and whatnot, and obviously looking back, we have learned a lot. Our family in general has learned a lot, and so we feel as though it's very important for us to be able to share that information with other families who are maybe going through the same struggles with their children or siblings or even just friends. So
no one will ever have to go through what we have had to go through with losing Brianne, because obviously it was an awful thing, and no one should have to lose their loved one to suicide. And we just want people to feel comfortable to reach out and say if they are struggling, because I feel like Brianne was at a point where maybe she felt like there was no other resources there. She had sought help, and maybe she wasn't referred to the appropriate resources, and so she didn't have any hope, I feel like, and just we wish that she would have would have been able to navigate through that really tough time in her life, and maybe she would still be with us today. But yes, so just to prevent anyone from ever having to go through what we have had to.
What was Brianne like? What did you guys love about her?
When you asked that, we both just smiled, because I think when we think of Brianne, we smile because she was honestly such a beautiful person on the inside and out. Just to describe her, she had this beautiful curly blonde hair and the greatest smile ever and the greatest laugh. When she laughed, you wanted to laugh with her, just because she had this contagious giggle and just this light about her. She'd walk into a room and you would just light up, because she brought so much light and joy to our lives. And so that's, I think, too, the thing about mental illness. What is so scary is that it's really, even though Brianne was very sick and she was dealing with a diagnosis of depression, but it's so easy to hide, which is what is so scary about mental illness. So that's also why we are wanting to spread awareness, because we want people, like I said, to just feel comfortable to reach out and say, hey, I'm not doing okay, and I need to talk to someone. I need help, and that's okay, because even if we can't see it like a physical illness, it is still an illness, and it still needs to be talked about, and is just as important.
Do you guys feel like doing this, putting this organization together in her memory and working on it, do you think in a way that's helped you guys to deal with her loss and to not fall into, type of depression because of that?
Oh, most definitely. And looking back, because we started speaking about it at only the age of 15. So we lost Brianne when we were 13. And I think being able to talk about it and openly share our story, it was healing for us as well, to be able to kind of navigate through our own grief. And
we were also able to connect with so many people too, as well, by speaking openly about it, who maybe were able to relate. Maybe they themselves had experienced a mental illness, or they had lost someone to suicide. So it really just, we were able to connect with a lot of people just from being open about it and our experience with it.
Yeah, and I feel like in that way too, when you are surrounded by people who have experiences similar to you or have experienced things similar to Brianne, I feel like you almost become this community and you're able to help heal each other.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's pretty amazing what you guys are doing, and especially to hear that you guys started at 15 is, that's a beautiful thing. How did your parents feel about it when you guys decided you wanted to put this together?
My parents have always been very open, and I think it's because of them that we were able to be so open about Brianne and how we lost her and her illness as well. It was never something that was hidden, and it was something that was talked about growing up. So I guess for us at that age, it was a normal thing to talk about. For us, the stigma didn't exist within our family. It was something that was okay to talk about. My mom also suffered and still does suffer with depression. So it's something that has been in our family. So I think for them, I think they're proud of us and that we're doing something to honor Brianne's memory and to hopefully, in her memory, help other people that struggle with the same things that she did. So.
And you guys are a little bit older now, but I assume, you do a lot of talks in schools. I assume you're talking to the people that were around your age when this happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. And we're 27 now, and Shalyn, our youngest sister, is 19, and she speaks with us as well now. But it's interesting now to go back and speak at high schools, and you see the kids who are only 15 years old or 13, the age we were when we lost Brianne, and even throughout that whole progression. And we think about speaking at that age, and it's nerve-wracking enough getting up in front of that many people at the age of 27 and with our life experience kind of that we have now. So I look back at our 15-year-old self and think kind of like, wow, that we were brave enough to be able to get up and speak. So
and it's also interesting too to speak to people who are like 13 years old, who were the same age as us when we lost Brianne, because at the time, or I feel like at the age you're at, you always kind of think you're older than you are almost, or more mature than you actually are. But looking back, and when you're speaking with a 13-year-old, it kind of just makes me go, wow, we were so young when we did lose Brianne, and I guess that just makes we were in such a vulnerable state. We could have dealt with Brianne's death very differently, but we are so lucky for the people that we had around us to kind of guide us and mentor us, and help us to deal with losing Brianne. So,
when you talk to these kids now, what's the reaction like? Do they come up to you afterwards and tell their story?
There definitely are circumstances where they do. I feel like in the youth today, I do feel like mental illness and suicide are becoming more normal topics for them to talk about because it is being talked about more in school. But I have done presentations, or we have done presentations, and people will come up afterwards, regardless of their age. But I've had people come up and say, until I sat through your presentation today, I thought that I was just sad or was just having a couple of bad days. But when I looked and read the warning signs and you spoke more about it in relation to your sister, I realized that these haven't just been bad days because it's been ongoing. And I've realized that I do need to reach out and get help. So thank you, so I think even just like that education piece and putting those warning signs or like symptoms out for people to to read
and recognize in themselves
is,
or other people.
Yeah, it's just, it always is kind of not nice. But I appreciate the people coming up and sharing that with us, because
we feel like we're making a difference, right?
We feel like we're making a difference, and then like we can connect them with the proper resources.
Yeah.
For that age, I can't imagine, you guys get up there and just speak to them. You have to have something to pull those kids in and get them to pay attention. What are some of the types of things you guys do when you go on these visits to, really get their attention?
Well, our presentations, we start off by telling our story. We tell them about the day that we lost Brianne and just kind of how traumatic it was for our family. And so we start off with that. So we talk about Brianne, the type of person she was. And then we go into more of an educational piece, and we talk about the warning signs, the risk factors, and how to help a suicidal friend. And then at the end, we talk about self-love and compassion and kind of just how to take care of yourself and the proper resources and who to reach out to if you are struggling, or what to do if you know someone's struggling. Because the education piece of our presentation is a huge piece. Obviously, I think our story is what connects the students and the kids to us, because I feel like they maybe are empathetic or can connect with us in that way. But then afterwards, with the education piece, I feel that's so important, because with the risk factors and everything, lots of times I think you do know if maybe a family member is at risk, because like with Brianne, we obviously knew she was at risk for suicide. But, and we tried to connect her with the appropriate resources. However, unfortunately, maybe she wasn't connected with all the right resources. She was never referred to a psychiatrist. So I think it's just so important that people know these things, and just most importantly, know how to connect their family member or their friend with help. Because that's the piece I find that's always maybe sometimes lacking.
The missing piece, yeah. They don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Now, we met through social media. How has social media been able to help you guys get your message out about your organization and about, the mission behind it?
Yeah, so social media is actually, like, it can be such an amazing tool in so many ways, because you can reach people from all over the world.
Well, which you from
right.
New Jersey, which is amazing.
It's just amazing that you can do that. So we actually, with our apparel line, our original plan with it was just actually to wear those shirts when we spoke. It was Jaclyn's idea, and she was like, hey, like, wouldn't it be nice if we just kind of had the same shirts and could wear them with our message on them while we're speaking? And we were like, yeah, that would be a good idea. And the clothing company that we work with, they said that we had to do at least 24 units of clothing. So we were like, oh, well, we'll order 24. If some people want to buy them and like them, then that's good. If not, I guess, like, we'll see if our family members want them. I'm sure they would support us and buy a few t-shirts kind of thing. And so then when we started our social media page, it was actually Shalyn's idea, our youngest sister. So we started our social media page.
Not really thinking, I guess, like how many people we would, thinking how many people would follow us. And all of a sudden we had all of these orders, or like being like, where do we get these t-shirts? How do we buy them? I think our first order, we had like over 200 t-shirts and sweaters and stuff to order. So, and now, since we started our social media page in June, I think it was the middle of June that we started it, 2017, and our page has grown so much, and we've been able to connect with so many people, which has been absolutely incredible. And just people who've been through the same thing as us, or who are struggling, and we've been able to help them navigate maybe what they're going through at this time, and help them connect with resources. So, and just get that piece out there that it's okay to talk about it, and the more we talk about it, and the more we will feel comfortable talking about suicide, mental illness, and our mental health.
Yeah. Things will get better if we keep talking. That's what I keep saying.
Exactly.
And you guys donate some of the proceeds as well, right? Or is it all of the proceeds?
We donate all of the proceeds. So yeah, our clothing is 100% donated, usually to the Canadian Mental Health Association, but we also donate to other Canadian mental health initiatives that align with our mission and goal of reducing the stigma surrounding mental illness and suicide, and being able to obviously open up and talk about it. So kind of whatever aligns with our mission, but most of our proceeds are donated to the Canadian Mental Health Association, as they are obviously always doing work to better the mental health of Canadians, as well as provide those resources that people so desperately need.
Yeah, and I believe I saw on one of your social media channels you were able to donate to the tragedy in Humboldt, right?
Yeah, we were. So that actually touches very close to home for us, as we grew up in Kindersley, which also has an SJHL team, so they're in the same league as Humboldt. And growing up, we, like, Kindersley is a hockey town, so we'd go to the hockey games. We've traveled to Humboldt before to watch hockey games, and we're friends with hockey. Like, it just ends up being a little small community. And although none of us have ever played hockey,
it's something that I feel like unites Canadians, and it's something that we can all connect with.
And just losing Brianne in such a traumatic and sudden way. Unfortunately, we can relate to those families who have lost their sons or daughters, and that they need those resources right now. They need the counseling, they need the support system. And so we just felt like that was something we wanted to donate to provide the crisis team and whoever else to continue to be there
for them,
for those families and friends and that community in general, because they're obviously going to need as much support as they can get to move through this.
Yeah, and because right now, obviously, there's a crisis center there and stuff, but I think lots of times, like with losing Brianne, obviously the first week or two, you're still in shock. You're still trying to like come to terms with, okay, what just happened? Did this actually happen? And then it's in the months to come and years to come that you really need those people there, the counselors, those people that will be there for you to help you navigate through your grief and what you are going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also because, and one thing I think we can relate to is in the coming months is lots of people will be able to go back kind of to what their normal was, and for those people, their normal has completely changed, So I just remember feeling like everyone else is back and doing their own thing, and for us, even going back to school and our daily activities where, it's just
everything's changed, and it changed in an instant. So you're just trying to put your feet in front of each other and just trying to move forward. You don't really know how, but that's why you need to have people around you to help you.
Yeah. I mean, that was a huge tragic story, even here in the States. I can't imagine what it was like for you guys up there.
Yeah, I honestly, it's a horrible thing, and I feel for all of the family members that are going through that right now, because it's
not something you wish upon anyone, and
no.
Honestly, our hearts go out to every single person who has been affected by it.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, you've mostly been doing speaking in Canada. Do you guys want to move this also into the States and further abroad?
We would absolutely love that. Right now, we're kind of just like taking opportunities as they come and connecting with people as it happens. And hopefully, we are hoping that we can spread our message like abroad. Like we could go to the States, just travel everywhere and tell people our story and hopefully help somebody and prevent a family, like we said, from ever having to go through what we have had to.
Yeah. I think that your social media presence and the clothing line can certainly do that. You guys ship to the States as well, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
we do.
we do.
Oh, that's great. When you see these kids that you guys speak to, young, around the age you were when you lost your sister, what is one thing that, you really want to tell them to get across? What's the most important thing you feel you can get across to them?
I want to tell them that their life matters and that people love them and people care about them. And if you just come forward and tell somebody how you are feeling, somebody will help you because they love you. And that just comes back to, I think, with Brianne. Brianne was so loved and so many people cared about her. We're from, like Callie said, a very small town of 5,000 people. And at Brianne's funeral, she had over 1,000 people there to honor her life. And I know that if Brianne would have came forward and said how she was feeling and said, I feel like life is no longer worth living, any of those people would have dropped whatever they were doing. They would have hopped in their car and they would have drove over to our house to be there with her and to support her through it. And so I just wish that anyone who is struggling right now, that someone is out there who loves you and cares about you and would do anything for you for them to realize that your life is so important and it is worth living.
It's something that people need to hear much more often. And I'm really proud of you guys for doing that.
Thank you, Scott.
You've been doing this now since you were 15. It's a really heavy thing for someone, especially that age, to be doing. What is something that you guys do for yourselves to practice, self-care, to take care of yourselves?
So I myself, I also suffer from anxiety and depression. So I have found the importance of coping mechanisms, and I see a psychiatrist, which has been, honestly, she has been amazing in helping me through this journey. I also have a counselor that I speak to on a regular basis. But other things that I do kind of for self-care for myself just at home are things like exercising. For me personally, especially with my anxiety, I find that getting a workout in where my heart rate is going, it can make the difference for me between having a really good day and a really bad day. So even though sometimes it's one of the hardest things to pull yourself to do because it's maybe the last thing you feel like doing, just getting even just like a good walk in.
For me, I like to play the guitar. That's something that I do for self-care. I find when I play the guitar, it just, I don't know, you can go to another world and you're just singing and playing the guitar. And like Callie said, I also like to exercise. But most importantly, I think just being surrounded by people I love and people I feel safe with. And that's something that I do for self-care.
Yeah, just having that support system is so important.
It sounds like you guys have a pretty incredible family.
Oh, thanks.
They are pretty incredible. We are really lucky that that our family is so close, and us sisters we love each other so much. We're all best friends, and our parents have been absolutely amazing, and we are so grateful that we've had them to guide us.
And now you guys get to all work together.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah,
which is so fun. That's a thing we get to go around and spread awareness, and it's something that we are so passionate about, and we do it for our older sister Brianne, who we love, but we also get to spend time together. So yeah, like at the end of the month we're doing a presentation, and I'm looking forward to it because we all actually live in different cities right now. So it's like, okay guys, we have to get together this weekend because we're doing stuff for Life is Worth Living, but we all get to see each other and hang out, and so it's awesome.
Very cool. Before we go, tell the people where they can find you online.
Yeah, for sure. So our website is lifeisworthliving.bck.com. The BCK stands for Brianne Carol Kennedy. And we also have an Instagram page, which is at Life is Worth Living, BCK. And you can find us on Facebook as well at the same thing, like at Life is Worth Living, BCK. We always love hearing from people as well. on whether that's through a direct message on Instagram, a Facebook message, or submitting through our website as well. So
yeah.
And you guys should definitely check out the apparel. It's really cool, really striking, and it ships to Canada and the U.S.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you so much for having us on, Scott.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming and talking for a little bit, sharing your story. I'm very sorry for what you've had to go through, but I feel like, in a way it's a blessing because you get to spread the message now to others who need it.
Thank you. Hopefully we can make a difference and like we said, just help that one person who might be in the same situation that Brianne was in, and they can reach out and get help, and hopefully they can still be here with us today and get to spend time with their family.
Thank you, guys. Let's keep talking. Which brings me to my question of the week this week. Have you ever known anyone who was struggling, may have been suicidal, or you could just tell they were very sick in some way and needed help? What did you do to help them? And how did you go about leading them towards help? We want to hear your story. So please call us, leave us a message at 732-903-4441, or drop us an email. You could even email us a voice memo if that's easier for you at anxietydiariespodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoyed Anxiety Diaries, please rate the show on iTunes, leave a review, and spread the word about the podcast. Those things really do help. You can find the podcast at www.anxietydiariespodcast.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter as well. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Anxiety Diaries Podcast, where you'll be able to find all the show notes, links, and other things related to the show. We're also on Twitter at Anxiety Diary Pod. Thanks again for listening. Be well, and we'll see you next week.